From the myths and legends of the Aztecs comes the feathered serpent god Quetzalcoatl. He was the Mesoamerican deity whose name comes from the Nahuatl language meaning feathered serpent. The worship of a feathered serpent deity was first documented in the Teotihuacan in the 1st century BCE. That period lies within the late pre-classic to early classic period of the Mesoamerican chronology, and the veneration of the figure appeared to have spread throughout the Mesoamerican by the late classic. In the post-classic period, the worship of the feathered serpent deity was based in the primary Mexican religious center of Cholula. It is in this period that the deity is known to have been named Quetzalcoatl by his Nahua followers. In the Maya area, he was approximately equivalent to the Kukulkan and the Guk-Amat's names that also roughly translates as the feathered serpent in different Mayan languages. In the era following the 16th century Spanish conquest, a number of sources were written that conflate Quetzalcoatl with Acatl Topiltzin, a ruler of the mythico-historic city of Tollan. It is a matter of much debate among historians to which degree, or whether at all, these narratives about this legendary Toltec ruler describe historical events. Furthermore, early Spanish sources written by clerics tend to identify the god-ruler Quetzalcoatl as these narratives with either Hernan Cortes or St. Thomas, an identification which is also a source of diversity of opinions about the nature of Quetzalcoatl. Among the Aztecs, whose beliefs are the best documented in historical sources, Quetzalcoatl was related to the gods of the wind, of Venus, of the dawn, of merchants and of the arts, crafts and knowledge. He was also the patron god of the Aztec priesthood, of learning and knowledge. Quetzalcoatl was one of the several important gods in the Aztec pantheon, along with the gods Tlaloc, Tezcatlipoca, and Huitzilopochtli. A feathered serpent deity has also been worshipped by many different ethno-political groups in the Mesoamerican history. The existence of such a worship can be seen through the studies of the iconography of different Mesoamerican cultures, in which serpent motifs are frequent, on the basis of different symbolic systems used in the portrayals of the feathered serpent deity in different cultures and periods. Scholars have interpreted the religious and symbolic meaning of the feathered serpent deity in the Mesoamerican cultures. The earliest iconographic depiction of the deity is believed to be found in the Stela 19 at the Olmec site of La Venta, depicting a serpent rising up behind a person probably engaged in a shamanic ritual. This depiction is believed to have been made around about 900 BC, although probably not exactly a depiction of the same feathered serpent deity that was worshipped in classic and post-classic periods. It shows the continuity of symbolism of feathered snakes in Mesoamerican, from the formative period and on, say for example in comparison to the Mayan vision of the serpent. The first culture to use the symbol of a feathered serpent as an important religious and political symbol was the Teotihuacan. At temples such as the aptly named Quetzalcoatl temple in the Ciudadela complex, feathered serpents featured prominently and alternate with a different kind of serpent head. So they kind of used different heads to depict Quetzalcoatl. The earliest depictions of the feathered serpent deity were fully zoomorphic, depicting the serpent as an actual snake. But already among the classic Maya, the deity began to acquire human features. In the iconography of the classic period Maya serpent imagery, it was also prevalent. A snake is often seen as the embodiment of the sky itself, and a vision serpent is the shamanic helper presenting Maya kings with visions of the underworld. The archaeological records show that after the fall of the Teotihuacan that marked the beginning of the Epi-Classic period in Mesoamerican chronology, around about 600 AD, the cult of the feathered serpent spread to the new religious and political centers in central Mexico. Centers such as Xochicalco, Caxtla, and Cholula. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Feathered serpent iconography is prominent in all of these sites. Cholula is known to have remained the most important center of worship to Quetzalcoatl, the Aztec Nahua version of the feathered serpent deity, which was in the post-classic period. During the Epi-Classic period, a dramatic spread of feathered serpent iconography is evident throughout Mesoamerica, and during this period begins to figure prominently at cities such as Chichen Itza and El Tajin, and throughout the Maya area. Colonial document sources that the Maya area frequently speaks of the arrival of foreigners from the central Mexican plateau, often led by a man whose name translates as the feathered serpent. It had been suggested that these stories recall the spread of the feathered serpent cult in the Epi-Classic and early post-Classic periods. In the post-Classic Nahua civilization of central Mexico, the worship of Quetzalcoatl was very prevalent. The most important center was Cholula, where the world's largest pyramid was dedicated to his worship. In Aztec culture, depictions of Quetzalcoatl were fully anthropomorphic. Quetzalcoatl was associated with the winged god Echecatl and is often depicted with his insignia holding a beak-like mask. On the basis of the Teotihuacan iconographical depictions of the feathered serpent, archaeologist Carl Taube has argued that the feathered serpent was a symbol of fertility and internal political structures, contrasting with the war serpent symbolizing the outwards military expansion of the Teotihuacan Empire. Historian Enrique Florescano, who also analyzed Teotihuacan iconography, shows that the feathered serpent was part of the triad of the agricultural deities, the goddess of the cave symbolizing motherhood, reproduction, and life, Tlaloc, god of the rain, lightning and thunder, and the feathered serpent god of the vegetational renewal. The feathered serpent was furthermore connected to the planet Venus because of this planet's importance as a sign of the beginning of the rainy season. To both Teotihuacan and the Mayan cultures, Venus was in turn also symbolically connected with warfare. While not usually feathered, classic Maya serpent iconography seems related to the belief in a sky Venus creator, war and fertility related serpent deity. In the example of Zachchilan, the vision serpent has the human face of the young maize god, further suggesting a connection to fertility and vegetation renewal. The Mayan young maize god was also connected to Venus. In the Quetzalcoatl, depictions of the feathered serpent are accompanied by the image of a seated armored ruler and the hieroglyph for the day sign of the 9 winds. The date 9 wind is known to be associated also with fertility. Venus and war among the Maya are frequently occurring in relation to Quetzalcoatl in the other Mesoamerican cultures. On the basis of the iconography of the feathered serpent deity at sites such as Teotihuacan, Xochicalco, and Chichen Itza, Tula, and Tenochtitlan, combined with certain historical sources. David Carrasco also argued that the function of the feathered serpent deity through the Mesoamerican history was as the patron deity of the urban center, a god of culture and of civilization. To the Aztecs, Quetzalcoatl was, as his name indicates, a feathered serpent, a flying reptile, much like a dragon as we know today, who was a boundary maker and a transgressor between the earth and the sky. He was the creator deity, having contributed essentially to the creation of mankind. He also had many forms. For example, in his aspect of Quetzalcoatl, the wind god, among the Aztecs the name Quetzalcoatl was also a priestly title, as the 2 most important priests of the Aztec Templo Maya were called Quetzalcoatl till Maxil, and in the Aztec ritual calendar different deities were associated with the cycle of the years, naming Quetzalcoatl and was tied to the year Chi-a-catl, meaning one reed, which correlates to the year 1519. The exact significance and attributes of Quetzalcoatl varied somewhat between citizens and through history. There are several stories about the birth of him. In a version of the myth, he was born by a virgin named Chilmalman, to whom the god Ontil appeared in a dream. In another story, the virgin Chilmalman conceived him swallowing an emerald. The third story narrates that Chimalman was hit in the womb by an arrow bolted by Mixcoatl, and 9 months later she gave birth to a child which she named Quetzalcoatl. And another 4th story narrates that he was born of Cotilcu, who already had 400 children who formed the stars of the Milky Way. According to another version of the myth, Quetzalcoatl is one of the 4 sons of Ometechutl and Omechuatl, the 4 Tezcatlipoca's, each of whom presides over one of the 4 cardinal directions. Over the west presides the white Tezcatlipoca. Quetzalcoatl, the god of light, justice, mercy, and wind. And over the south presides the blue Tezcatlipoca and Huitzilopochtli, the god of war. Over the east presides the red Tezcatlipoca, Tzipi Totec, the god of gold, farming, and springtime. And over the north presides the black Tezcatlipoca, known by no other name than the god of judgment, night, deceit, sorcery, and the earth. Quetzalcoatl was often considered the god of the morning star, and his twin brother Quetzalcoatl was the evening star. As the morning star, he was known by the title Tilhuizilcapantechutli, meaning Lord of the Star of the Dawn. He was known as the inventor of books and the calendar, the giver of mace to mankind, and sometimes as a symbol of death and resurrection. Quetzalcoatl was also the patron of the priests and the title of the twin Aztec high priests. Some legends describe him as opposed to human sacrifice, while others described him practicing it. Most Mesoamerican beliefs include cycles of suns. Usually our current time was considered the fifth sun, the previous four having been destroyed by flood, fire, and the like. Quetzalcoatl went to Mictlan, the underworld, and created the fifth world, mankind, from the bones of the previous races with the help of Chihucoatl, using his own blood from a wound he inflicted on his earlobes, calves, tongue, and his nether regions to imbue the bones with new life. It was also suggested that he was the son of Xochiquetzal and Mixcoatl. One Aztec story claims that Quetzalcoatl was tricked by Tezcatlipoca into becoming drunk and sleeping with a celibate priestess, and in other accounts his sister Quetzalcoatl then burned himself to death out of remorse. His heart became the morning star. So let me know if you know anything about Quetzalcoatl. Let me know in the comments below. I'd be interested in reading it. Thank you for listening.